Hi there. So we are on chapter 7, which covers depressive and bipolar disorders. Those are under separate categories in the DSM-5. I'm going to start with depression. When you think about depression, it is very useful to think about deactivation. Okay, so typically a person who has either a diagnosis of a major depressive disorder or some other type of depressive disorder, they would have a sad mood. They would feel empty or depressed. They would be crying often, although it's not necessary, and they would typically report a diminished sense of pleasure and interest. Okay, so they would typically say, I used to enjoy hiking and I don't really have any interest in doing that anymore. Very often we see people with depression present with feelings of guilt and worthlessness, and they also often have some disturbance in sleep and or appetite. So for example, they may be sleeping too much, maybe 14 or 16 hours, may be very difficult to get out of bed, but some people can have insomnia. And the same with eating. Some people eat excessively and some people don't have any appetite and barely eat anything. Okay, we typically see low energy, okay, problems with concentration or thinking, and some people with depression also present with suicidal thinking or suicidal urges. Now, bipolar disorder is a kind of disorder in which there is a presence of either mania or hypomania. Okay, typically. So bipolar 1 would be a disorder that requires only the presence of a manic episode. Okay, very often people also have depressive episodes, but by definition, we can diagnose someone with bipolar 1 disorder if they have had one manic episode. And you can think of mania or a manic episode as a state of heightened energy and goal-directed activity. I don't mean the kind of energy and goal-directed activity that we have when we wake up, get a cup of coffee, and tackle the tasks of the day on a very, very busy schedule. Okay, that's not mania. That's just getting things done on a busy day. Mania is much more excessive. So the energy level is very, very high. The person typically is agitated and typically engages in behavior or behaviors that they don't usually do. Okay, so a person may just go and spend thousands of dollars on things that they don't need. That would be considered excessive and atypical, and often people regret those purchases after they are no longer in a manic phase. Okay, people with manic symptoms often have grandiosity, a sense of being on top of the world. They typically can function on very little sleep, and it typically lasts 7 or sometimes more days. Bipolar 2 disorder, on the other hand, requires that the person meets the diagnostic criteria for a hypomanic episode. And you can think of a hypomanic episode as sort of lower grade mania. Okay, so it's not as severe, it's not as intense, and it's not as long. And so a person who has hypomania would be still having a lot of energy, can still go without much sleep, maybe for 5 days. They still have some agitation, but they will not have the same degree of symptoms and the same degree of impairment in functioning that you see in someone who has a full-fledged manic episode. Okay, we'll talk about treatment for depression in the next video. So for now, we're going to wrap it up and I'll see you next time. Bye.